Hey all, it's Kobe R. Rice, and I'm back again for another weekly creative update. Sorry that this is a couple days late. As usual, graduate school in my ass. Okay, but actually, things I wouldn't say are winding down, but I'm just kind of chopping through the endless thick forest of my graduate school work slowly but surely to reveal the end of the tunnel light that is spring break, which is literally looming at this point exactly 10 days away, and I am here for it. So excited. Actually, I think it's like officially 11 days away. Yeah, but I am here for it. I am super amped. And in the meantime, I've just been up to a bunch of very not interesting, very boring graduate school things that I would not bore you with. But there is one topic that I did want to get into as soon as I'm done with my weekly update. And this is yet another sort of chapter in the strange and yet somehow endless saga of me having to advocate and negotiate for my space and my creative rights, essentially, as a director of both film and theater, or rather as a burgeoning director of film and theater. Let me just fix this light because I don't know, like this my my light scheme, my light setup here is kind of whack because there's like light bouncing off my glasses and it's just like looking kind of cray cray. Anyway, we'll just like work with it and deal with it. Anyway, sorry about that, guys. But yes, so in the past week, literally since last Wednesday to today, I've been struggling and grappling with some key issues and just things that I think are important to share. Let's put it that way. So I'll get into it just a second. But prior to that, just to give you guys a quick update, this past week, let's see, lots of marketing stuff going on. And if you see my face getting washed out, for those of you watching the vlog version, it's because I'm looking at my screen notes. You guys know how it goes. Lots and lots of marketing stuff. Because I've been so busy with graduate school, it's sort of hard to get in the headspace of writing. I have been in the headspace of world building and plotting, but in terms of just like sheer time and intellectual capacity and energy, I have been struggling with that. And this is something that I've noticed pretty much every single semester. I don't write as well or as fluently throughout my graduate school semesters as I do throughout my vacation times, during Christmas break, during spring break, and then during the summer. And so, I unfortunately have to replace that writing time with other things that are still going to build up my writing career and my business, Rebel Ragdoll, but that are also going to prepare me for that writing time that I will eventually have. So, in lieu of that, or rather in that light, did get a lot of marketing done. The great thing is that I finished my entire author email welcome system reboot. Actually, that didn't make any sense. Let's try that again. Run back, Kobe. I finished the entire email marketing sequence. The same email sequence that welcomes readers into my world, into off-world, and onto my mailing list. I have finally upgraded it, rebooted it, and completely perfected it. And that's really exciting because it allows me to make a more personal and direct and immediate connection with readers and potential fans of my work. So for those of you who are authors who are interested in how to develop better relationships with your readers and how to create marketing systems and sort of automated email marketing systems, this part of the podcast is for you. Because essentially, my email funnel, my marketing sort of sequence, if you will, consists of 10 emails that not only welcome my readers to my reading list, but also get them more comfortable with who I am, get them to know more about my series and my works. I invite them to, engage with and purchase more books if they really loved the free book that they got. I also just let them in more about, let them in on just more of who I am, not just as a novelist, but like as a filmmaker, as a game designer, as a creative entrepreneur. I check in with them and make some of my emails on the chain about them. I invite them to tell me about themselves and just to get them more engaged. So I rebooted my entire email marketing system into a 10 email system that's automated, that starts off by welcoming them to the list and offering them their free opt-in gift. So um, usually that's going to be the first novel in the Books of Ezekiel series called The Given, which personally I think is a really perfect weeding out gift. Not only does everybody get the free gift, but those of the readers who actually read the book will know pretty much right off the bat if I am their cup of tea or not. It's a very good way to sort of kind of clean out the readers who are just sort of casual readers, and sort of separate those readers from those who are going to be like the true super fans, the true VIP circle, the true street team. And that's really important to me. And since I rebooted that, and I actually will give you guys a tutorial on creating a really great email marketing funnel, because actually once I rebooted my funnel and I made it longer and more involved, and then I sort of reinitiated my entire list into it, it's working, guys. People are opening emails, they're reading them, they're responding to them, they're telling me how they feel about my books, which was happening before, but only on like a case by case, once in a while basis. But having a really great marketing funnel is a wonderful opportunity to really, make your readers feel welcome and make them feel a part of your world and make them feel as though they're being seen, and that you appreciate them. And so, one of my goals for this year, for 2018, as you guys know, is to kind of scale back on the quantity of readers and develop the quality of readers on my list. And I feel as though I'm definitely doing that now. So that's really exciting. And it doesn't mean I won't participate in more, shall we say, promotions to help grow my list. But I really wanted to get that email marketing funnel revamped, rebooted, and streamlined so that when new readers come onto my list, they're experiencing the new Kobe R. Rice. And it's been really successful so far, and I'm super happy with the engagement. So, in one of my podcasts in the future, I'll give like a step-by-step mega course tutorial on how to really, perfect your author marketing funnel. And also what the tools are and materials that you need, and the materials you need to actually do that successfully. So that was a big win, because I had been working on that reboot for the past month and a half. And so that was exciting. Okay, what else did I do? As I told you guys, lots of graduate school stuff, lots of mommying. Just a quick note about graduate school. So I'm in this architecture class called Period Styles Architecture, and it's a requirement of my theater arts degree, because it's important, especially if you're studying theater arts in the context of the European canon, which is important, but it also kind of irks me and annoys me because there are other canons that are post-colonial, pre-colonial, and multicultural, but I digress. Most theater arts programs are going to integrate you into the European canon. So that's, my program is no different. It's very white, very European. I knew that when I came in. All right. No issues with that, really, at least at this point in time, sort of. So I'm in this class, and we literally learned about 2,000 to 3,000, maybe even 2,000 to 4,000 years of art history for architecture, motifs, furniture, crafts, etc. Literally in the past 5 to 6 weeks, we covered almost 4,000 years, from Greek to Roman to Byzantine to Romanesque to Gothic to the Italian Renaissance to the simultaneous French Renaissance, and then on to Italian and Baroque. And now we're going to move on to Italian and French Rococo, right? I love saying that, Rococo. And we have this insane assignment called the vocabulary morgue that we basically have to, for each unit, we have a list of vocabulary words, anywhere between 20 to 30 words a piece usually, that we have to define from our notes. And then we also have to find 3 research images, organize and format those images, and then we have to also draw certain images. And me, not because I'm irresponsible really, but because I was just swamped my first 5 weeks, I was just taking everything as it came, one by one. And the vocabulary morgue was like the last thing I had to do. And I saved it for like 4 days before it was due. So I was like, okay, I mean, it's gonna be hard and rough, but it shouldn't be too crazy. Given, I'm giving myself at least over half a week to like do it. For with 200 vocabulary words, it shouldn't be that bad, right? Wrong, very wrong, and I will never save that amount of work for myself ever again. I mean, really, this is like 206 definitions and at least 600 graphics that I had to look up, download, and then arrange into like a neat banner and then put into a Word document in like 4 days. And then on top of that, I had to do drawings, which, to be honest with you guys, I'm not even going to front. I started doing the drawings and I did like 10% of them. And then I was like, this is something I really don't have time for. Let me focus on the main bulk of it. And I submitted my entire vocabulary morgue, which was substantial just to begin with everything except for my drawings. So I am going to get points off for that. It is what it is. But and that was stressful. I mean, literally the vocabulary morgue, and it is called a morgue. I have no idea why, but I am guessing that because it almost put my ass in a freaking morgue just with the amount of work I had to do, that might be where the name came from for the assignment, because I literally was like almost dead at the end of it. But honestly, even though it sucked doing all of that, I literally can rattle off at least 4,000 years of architectural history from like all the way from like the Greek, Ionic, Doric, and Corinthian columns all the way to like the cartouche that were used in Baroque style. And half figures and guilloche. I can tell you the difference between a guilloche motif and a dog tooth motif and a freaking Greek key motif. I can tell you the difference between intarsia and a freaking oh my gosh, and a freaking candelabra. You know what I'm saying? I just have all this random crazy knowledge that actually like makes me feel really gangster and smart. And so part of me is like, damn, is it really worth all this drama? And so part of me kind of hated it, but I actually really do enjoy learning about the architecture, which is a surprise for me. And I'm really looking forward to literally the next half of the semester where all of the art history and movements are pretty much condensed down into periods of like 20 to 50 years as opposed to like a few thousand years. That's going to be really great and exciting. That's one thing that's great about art history, is that the further along in it you get, the shorter the movements last. And so we have to do that and go to classes, take notes, do the vocabulary morgue, obviously be in class and pay attention, but we also have to take exams and we also have to write research papers. And I just finished my first one a couple weeks ago. And the next two are going to be probably on the Italian Renaissance and Brutalism, to be honest with you. So that's interesting. I promised you guys I wouldn't bore you with graduate school, but that is something that has really actually stuck with me. I do enjoy the class. I don't enjoy the assignments, but the assignments really do help me to completely remember everything I need to know about all of these architectural movements. And I'm literally on campus walking around identifying like identifying different motifs on the wall. Like, oh snap, like that's like a beakhead molding. Anyway, I feel super nerdy. But one of the main things that learning about architecture is doing for me actually is really influencing my science fiction and fantasy writing. Because when I think about world building and civilizations and things like that, there's just a lot of different kinds of architecture that really are playing into more and more how I see these fantastical worlds in my mind. So that's been a really interesting sort of side benefit that I did not expect. Anyway, so if I look tired, it's because I'm coming off of that and like I'm literally in zombie mode from what I just went through yesterday. I literally took my exam yesterday for architecture and I'm still kind of like recuperating. Anyway, back to the main issue at hand. I also New Adult Noir, as I told you guys, is still on its hiatus. Thank God, because there's no way I could have successfully maintained any giveaways in this past 2 months. But the February 2018 free book grab for our free Dark and Gritties will be going up actually tomorrow, and I'm excited about that. It's only going to be up for about a week. Even with my shall we say, little break and hiatus, even then, I only have really debuted new books on my blog for January and February for like anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks at a time. Because I usually just do it when I have the chance and the time to do it. And that's when I was able to fit in the February promo, like literally right now. As of tomorrow to the end of the month, that's when the books will be up. So if you guys are interested in grabbing your free monthly Dark and Gritties, I think we have about 12 books on offer. They will be up on the New Adult Noir website tomorrow and will be available for download until February 28th, 11:59 p.m. my time. FYI, okay? I'm so sorry I'm not as like energetic as I usually am, guys. I'm just really tired. I'm running on E right now. So just forgive me, please, for this one time. Let's see. What else have I been doing? Oh, what is this on my computer screen? Okay. I didn't buy anything, but I did go shopping for some film scheduling and budgeting software for Rebel Ragdoll Productions. I am still very much, again, little by little, trying to like build up the different elements and pieces that I need for my media empire, for my production house, for my publishing house. So little by little, as much as I can, as I'm getting crushed by graduate school, I'm doing that. And I also did some writing. I only got like 600 words written last week. I know, it's horrible, for the Asylum trilogy, and that was exciting. Recently, I've been working more on Hollow Point, though I actually did some writing yesterday, and that was really, really exciting. And then as I've been telling you guys, world building and plotting for Asylum. And then I also did some plotting for the Books of Ezekiel, but more so for the Books of Ezekiel backstory, which honestly is pursued more vigorously in the TV adaptation for the Books of Ezekiel series that I eventually want to release. Yet and still, even though the world building and plotting that I did was for the backstory, it's helpful to the front story to know even more detail what went on in the backstory. There are some things happening in both Hollow Point and The Haunt that need a foundation. And I want to be able to sort of know what it is I'm referring to with regard to certain events, people, and places in these two books. And it's just helpful for me to keep fleshing out the prequel story, essentially, especially when it comes to Zeka and another individual, which, if you guys are reading the books, you would have seen the reveal towards the end of The Taken. And that's pretty much it, guys, for like my actual things that I did update. I mean, most of my work, again, was couched in graduate school and in updating my author funnel for my readers. And the main thing, though, that I did want to talk to you guys about, aside from those quick updates, was a situation that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, dealing with, and this is why I actually entitled the podcast "Over My Dead Director's Body," because as I mentioned to you guys before, we're working on a production for the spring, which is actually going to start. The rehearsals will start in actually like about 3 weeks, a little less than 3 weeks, and our last sort of pre-rehearsal meeting that we had, which was last Wednesday. At the end of it, the supervisor of our production basically kind of brought up last minute that instead of us collaboratively claiming directorship and creatorship and ownership over the show, he said essentially that maybe it should be him that is claiming the directorship credit. The reason being was that, like, for a bunch of reasons. Okay, one, that because we have an acting company of 16, not including the 4 dramaturgs, he felt it would be better to establish the director authority up front so that people know that he is essentially the person who gets to make the final call. No matter how many moments or things that we create and devise in the creation process of the show, he gets to say what goes in and what comes out, essentially, right? That's one. That was one of the reasons why he wanted to claim directorship. The other reason was that he felt that being entitled the quote supervisor sounded condescending, as though he was supervising a bunch of children rather than adult artists. Okay? Now, on the surface, right, this sounds all well and good, hunky dory, and, like our best interests are being looked out for as well as the best interests of the show. When he asked if we were okay with it, I didn't really give consent. I was just kind of like this with my face, if you can see me on the vlog version, you can see my face looks very pensive. But my other cohorts / colleagues were like, tend to be pretty enthusiastic with their yeses, even without having thought things through. And now that's the most I'll say about that, because I'm honestly not trying to throw shade here or be nasty, but sometimes when you are dealing with people who are in positions of authority in a program, you are a little bit more eager to please and to give your consent to things that may not be in your best interest, whether that be a heavier workload, whether that be a project that you are not very interested in, but you just want to do it because you feel as though you want to save face or help the professor or the director save face, or you just want to play politics. And you might say yes to things like, hey, take credit for the show that I'm putting together. Because you're too uncomfortable to say, hey, this doesn't sound right. And so that there was a little bit of that kind of going on, plus the fact that we didn't really have time to think about these issues at the end of that meeting. But I made time to think about those issues. And even though my colleagues at that point had essentially cast their vote, I went home, I thought about it, I decided in my gut that something about this did not feel right, because essentially we are responsible for taking the original material, which is in the public domain, adapting it, writing our scripts, gathering the research materials, creating prop lists, bringing in theoretical materials, showing up to rehearsal, managing actors, developing performances, helping and working together with the actors and the designers to create the look of each piece of the show. And at the end of it, I personally wanted to be able to put on my CV and my resume that I co-directed this show, because that's essentially what a director does. The director, we're actually doing more than a director, because directors usually just take a pre-written script and then they apply their vision, their time, and their perspective to it. But we're not only adapting the show, writing the show, creating and devising the show, managing actor performances, blocking, staging, designing, lighting. We're doing all of it in conjunction with an ensemble. And I wanted to be able to point back to certain stills, certain moments in the show and say, hey, that was my creative input. Because you never know what kind of doors that kind of project may open for you in the future. And I'm not saying I'm a future Spielberg, but if I do come up with some really amazing stuff, I want to be able to say, I did that. That is mine, or that is mine along with my other colleagues. And with our supervisor claiming director credit, that ability to claim intellectual ownership completely disappears. And I don't think that my colleagues really thought about the consequences, both to their CVs, their academic and their artistic careers. They didn't think about the consequences of that consent that they gave, but I did. And so what I did was that I followed up with our supervisor, the person who's managing the show, with 2 questions. The first question being, 1, Will we, with these new regulations that we've put in place, still be able to claim a co-director credit on our CVs and in our portfolios? And secondly, how much input do we have in the actual studio space? Are we just giving you a formal director's credit that's on the pamphlet? Or and while we have creative control in the studio, or is this both a formal credit for you and you are directing with a very, very heavy hand every single scene of the show? Are you a director in name and in action, or just one, is basically what I wanted to know. And this was especially important not only for intellectual property and experience reasons, but also because prior to this show, we had been assured and reassured again that this was our show to create the things that we wanted to create. And so someone taking over the directorship of the show obviously had me concerned, because that was not really in alignment with the agreement that we had with the faculty and the program curriculum. Now, so that was the concern at hand. I'm not going to call it a problem because it actually worked out very well, but it was very awkward to bring that up to the supervisor, because upon asking those questions via email, the response I had received was, and our advisor was very enthusiastic to discuss this, but the response was, quote, "These are complex issues and we should discuss this in a group setting," end quote. Now, if you're looking at my face right now, you can see the face is like, okay, boy, bye. Like, you should be able to tell me offhand whether or not we can get credit for the work that we're putting in and all this stuff. But now suddenly we have to have a conversation. Okay, that's fair. But the response at first, my first reaction prior to having our meeting today, was that it didn't pass the smell test. And I was just like, what is really happening here? Is our show being snatched out from under us? Are there some political or bureaucratic or academic reasons why this is happening? Like, what are the reasons for the supervisor wanting to claim a directing credit? Can he claim the directing credit on paper, but then I can still claim co-directorship of certain parts of the show? You know what I'm saying? There's all these things that were in my mind. But the main thing that was in my mind, to be very honest with you, was, here we go again. That was my response. Like, my internal response was, here we go again, where I have to be sort of the awkward, chunky pink elephant in the room, asking the awkward, pink, chunky elephant questions that nobody wants to ask and nobody really has the balls to fight for. Because in our program, at least 3 of us want to be directors and owners of our own intellectual property. But when I brought the issue up, I was really the only person in the room who was speaking up for the fact that we needed to be able to claim co-directorship on this show. And either my cohorts and colleagues did not think it was important, or they just didn't want to rock the boat. And I have to say, guys, this situation really showed me a lot. It taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about the people that I was working with. And it just taught me a lot about the importance of self-advocacy, even when it's uncomfortable, even when, things feel a little awkward. And even when you don't seem to really have much support from your colleagues. There was one colleague who actually, because what happened was that after I had posed these questions to our supervisor and he came back with, hey, let's discuss this in a group next week. I think it's an important thing to talk about, blah, blah, blah. Only one person got back to me after that. After I had forwarded the entire conversation to my cohort and just let them know what was happening. Only one person came back and said, these are valid and important questions and we need to talk about it. Even so, that individual decided not to show up to the meeting today. Now, it could have been for other reasons. I'm sure that because all of us have a lot going on. It's very stressful here. Sometimes we just need a damn break. So I totally feel that. But the only other person who would have been an ally in that room was not there. So when it came time to talk about the issue of the day, today, Wednesday, Um, my supervisor, our supervisor, put me on the spot, not in a malicious way, but he was basically just like, can you just communicate to the rest of the group what your correspondence was to me, how you felt about it, where it was coming from, and what the issues are around intellectual property ownership for this show. And I laid it out. And even then, my colleagues were kind of like just a little bit deadpan. But thankfully, even though it was awkward, the supervisor was extremely professional. He was extremely fair. He laid out everything on the table, including his reasons, once again, for wanting more ownership or whatever over the show. And we were able to work out a credit situation and a billing situation that allowed us to claim co-directorship, and also allowed him to claim the kind of both formal and informal authority that he needed to that he needed to be able to run the show the way it needed to be run. So I was super happy about the results, and I am giving myself the 100 to 300% credit that I deserve for being the person who decided to advocate on behalf of myself and the rest of our cohort for co-directorship credit. I didn't get any thank yous from my cohort, but that's okay. I wasn't waiting for them. But essentially, because of me, we're not only claiming writer and dramaturgical credit on the show, but we can also now create co-director credit on the show. Okay? And that felt very good to me. It felt very uncomfortable, the process of bringing that up in conversation, the process of bringing that into a communal space, and having to advocate for my director's credits pretty much by myself. But I'm glad that I did. And the lesson that I learned from that is that and I will say this to you guys too, you guys should always feel as though you have the right to advocate for yourself and for your right, especially when it comes to intellectual property. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is a project in which all of us, including our supervisor, are going to be putting a lot of time, effort, creativity, thought, energy, love, hate, tears, blood, and sweat into. And to be able to come out of that process with something at least decent, if not good, and be able to point at that and say, you know what, I did that, I made that. That is powerful, not just for your career and for your intellectual property portfolio, but for your emotional, artistic, and intellectual growth. And, there were just so many things, in my opinion, that were at stake that I would have, in my opinion, conceded if I had remained silent on those issues. If I hadn't basically asked him, why aren't we getting co-director credit on this? Why can't I say that I directed this piece of the show if that's what I did? I didn't say it like that. I was more tactful than that, obviously. But it's a valid question. Who do you know shows up on set and does everything a director does and then doesn't get director's credit? Like, who in the world do you know does that? Unless they are either trying to please someone, they're not smart enough really to know what their rights are or how to advocate for that, or they just don't care about their creative credits. And I just don't know any artist out there who doesn't care about credit, because a lot of times that's really all that we get. We don't really get paid that much, a lot of us, even though, again, I don't believe in the starving artist trope, but most of us starting out are not making millions of dollars. You can get to that point at some point, but starting out as student artists, you're not making really much money. So you better be making credit. And actually, I have a podcast on the Be Badass podcast. I will have one in the future dealing with the topic of when to work for free. And the answer is almost never. You should never, ever work for free. And in this situation, had I not spoken up, I would have essentially been giving director's input and director's artistic vision and director's work without getting a director's credit, which is basically me getting hired to be a director for free, because I can't even claim it on my resume. So I don't believe in working for free, especially when you're just starting out as an artist and you have to build your reel and your portfolio and your resume. And I feel like even though my ideas for this particular production are just like way off top and just out of pocket and cray, like, I mean, I'm out here asking for DJ turntables and fog machines for a freaking black box performance. Like, I'm just out here looking all kinds of crazy and just sounding crazy to the point where, like, my colleagues are literally rolling my eyes whenever I talk. And I do not care because I am here to bring my creativity, my energy, my cheer, my drive, my ambition, but I'm bringing myself to the process, and I want whatever I'm bringing to the process to be able to be recognized. That's it. See me, hear me, bitch. I am here. I am director. Hear me fucking roar is basically what I am thinking and how I feel. Um, and I'm glad ultimately that I stood up for my rights. And so just to let you guys know, yes, if you feel in your heart that you are in the right in terms of intellectual property, um, credit claiming, billing on a show, anything like that, stand up for your rights. And it's gonna feel uncomfortable. It's gonna feel awkward. It's gonna feel like you're the troublemaker. But as long as you do it tactfully and professionally and you're not coming out the gate all crazy, save the crazy for when they actually screw you over and they tell you, no, we're going to make you work without giving you credit. That's when you save the crazy, okay? That's when you bring the crazy out. But until then, assume that people are working from their greatest good. But you also work from your greatest good and make sure that you are protecting your greater good by protecting your damn rights. And you can stand up for yourself tactfully and politely, but you are still standing up for yourself. And I think we as artists need to really develop our boundaries and our self-esteem more to know that we are worth enough to tell people when to stop encroaching on us, and that we're worth enough to reaffirm the fact that we deserve to be recognized when it comes to our copyright and our credit. And I feel like this is a learning experience that was a little bit painful for me because it wasn't it's not as though I felt completely confident the entire way through, but I feel even less confident being silent on something that I know is important to me and is vital to me. So I have to weigh out my comfort zones, and I just felt less comfortable not saying anything. So I went with what made me feel the most comfortable, which was pursuing my rights. And guess what? I won them. That's the most important thing. If you don't speak up, you're not going to get what you want for sure. But if you do, you might just come out on the other side. So I was really proud of myself. And honestly, this was a battle that I fought by myself. The main thing that my cohorts did in the meeting was that they helped to come up with language that would allow us to basically claim our proper credits while also giving our supervisor the proper credits that he needed for whatever he needed to do. And so I didn't have that language because I don't know theater as well, but they were able to come up with that. And so that's how they were helpful. But in terms of like fighting the good fight, sorry, that was all me. And I am not ashamed about taking all the credit. I am the little red hen up in this bitch. Oh, you didn't want to cut the wheat? Okay. You didn't want to grind the wheat? Okay. You didn't want to knead the flour? Okay. You didn't want to bake the bread? Okay. Now I'm going to eat the bread all by my damn self. At the same time, though, we all pretty much won in the situation. But I'm still taking the credit. I'm taking the credit for the fact that we won. So that's basically all I have to say to you guys. Don't let anybody's power or authority kind of usurp what you feel is right. Even if you stand up for what you believe, if you lose, at least you know that you were true to yourself and that you had your own integrity. Integrity basically means that your exterior life matches your interior life. If you feel that something is wrong on the inside, but you don't do anything about it, or you don't do anything to rectify it, you're not really living with much integrity, right? But if you feel as though something is wrong on the inside, and you act in accordance with those feelings to try to rectify it, even if you lose, at least you don't lose your dignity, your self-respect, and your integrity. At least people know that they can trust you to be a straight shooter. I'm not the most popular person in my program in terms of, oh, Venetia is so easygoing, and I use my real name. Colby is so easygoing. Not that you guys don't know who I am, but Colby is so easygoing, and like I don't have that reputation. I think I have a reputation of being cheerful and upbeat and laughing off problems or people. Let's put it that way. When I don't get my way, it's not like I'm stomping around spoiled. I just kind of giggle because it is kind of funny. I do ask for crazy shit. I'm not gonna lie. Hello, fog machines for black box. Come on now. But I am known around the department for being a straight fucking shooter. If you don't want my honest opinion, you do not ask Kobe. Do not go to the person who's gonna make you feel great about what you're doing, who's gonna lie to your face and smile and tell you that everything is great when it's not. That's not me. I will try my best to not be a bitch about it, but I will still tell you how I feel, and you just gotta handle it. You just gotta learn how to deal with it. So I'm personable. I'm just not fake. Let's put it that way. And sometimes that makes people uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, they know that they can trust whatever comes out of my mouth. And to me, having your trust and your respect is way more important than whether or not you like my ass. Because when you're in the trenches on anything, you might not like me. I might make you feel uncomfortable, but at least you know I'm trustworthy and you can go to war with me. You know that whatever comes out of my mouth, I'm going to make good on my word. And you know I'm going to tell you the truth about what I feel, and you're not going to have to wonder if I'm a snake in the grass. That's just me. And I personally feel like that those are my values, because I have had situations where people have literally smiled in my face while doing other things behind my back or others' backs, or literally smiling in my face while they're stabbing me in the back. And I'm just like, man, that's cowardly. Like, the only time you stab somebody in the back is if you feel you're not a worthy opponent to beat that person to their face, you know? And so it just says a lot about that person, and it says a lot about what they think about you when they can't be honest with you to your face. And so I really I'm not perfect. I really am not. You know, I try my best, though, to be as truthful as I possibly can in most situations, you know, unless the truth is not really going to help you or anybody else, then, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother podcast. But this is just, you know, what I want to share with you guys. This is why I called this Over My Dead Director's Body, because I was going to go out fighting. Whether or not I got what I wanted, I was going to fight to the end of it. So you would literally have to have stepped over my director's dead body, my dead director's body, in order to not give me credit on this show. But it didn't come down to that. And I'm super excited about that. So that's been my week in grad school, in life, and creativity. I am still very much going for not only my DJ turntables up in this production, but also now for some fans and some party streamers, as well as some bioluminescent markers and makeup, and literally fabrics that are like an entire room's length long. Like, just don't even ask questions, just come and see the show. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Even if my parts get cut, I will be videotaping the rehearsal parts of my rehearsal, just to keep in my little reel or whatever, and taking photos and stills of our rehearsal process. So I'm excited about what's coming. And I'm even more excited that whatever it is I do, I'll be able to get credit on as a co-director. So yay. In any case, I'm out of here, guys. Oh, by the way, you guys get an awesome double feature this week. This is episode 59, but I will be uploading an episode number 60 this week on Black Panther, which I saw literally on opening night. Actually, in Tucson, it opened the day before, so I felt super special. So I saw it on Thursday. Black Panther, oh my God, it was the most incredible Marvel movie, but also one of the best movies I've seen just in a long time. It was black, it was beautiful, it was powerful, it was everything you could have wanted from a superhero movie, just like the aesthetics, the costumes, the fight scenes, the action, just the chase scenes, everything was on point. But the themes, the writing, the emotional and political resonance it has for not just Black people, but for the world, is so phenomenal. I mean, it is really mind-blowing how amazingly good it was, and how I just want to encourage you guys, if you haven't seen it, Go see it. It does not matter if you're black, white, Asian, Native American, American Indian, Hispanic, Latinx. It does not matter. Go and see this movie. You will be a better person, because contrary to popular belief, people tend to think that whenever blacks talk about our culture and our pride and our resilience, that it's always about us pushing back against the white majority or the white institutions. And that's not only not how we live our lives as black people and as black artists, but it's also not the point. This movie in and of itself is literally for by black people, for black people, but also about black people, without really even bringing white people into the conversation. So for those of you who feel as though Black Panther is going to be this anti-white propaganda, it really is not. I'm not going to lie, there are a couple of cute little jabs that is taken at the colonizer once in a while, but for the most part, this is really just an all black cast doing all black cast things, very much in its own little insular world of blackness and just black greatness and black excellence. And it also just, not with no spoilers in this particular podcast, but it also just deals with a very interesting question about the responsibility of the black elite to the rest of the black community across the entire world. It was just so masterfully done, and I really, really encourage you guys to go see it. Everybody is incredible. Ryan Coogler did a fantastic job. His set designers and scene designers and CGI and costume designers did an amazing job. Lupita Nyong'o, Danai Gurira, Daniel Kaluuya, Forrest Whitaker, Chadwick Boseman, of course Michael B. Jordan, who played Eric Killmonger. Just everybody in that movie. Angela Bassett, Killmonger's father, I forget his name. Incredible, amazing stories, amazing acting, amazing screen presence, and I literally cried. It was the only Marvel movie in which I literally shed tears. That's how deep it was for me, and that's how impactful it was for me as a black female, especially as a black female artist who has grappled with these same issues that the movie discusses throughout her entire life. And this movie has pretty much externalized a lot of internal struggles that I have felt and that I have experienced across the African diaspora, between Black Americans, Afro-Caribbeans, and Africans of all different places all over the world. And so it's just amazing. Even if you don't understand any of the cultural references, you will get your entire life. And so episode number 60 is on the Black Panther. There will be spoilers, so just skip right the hell over it if you have not watched it and you intend to watch it. But in that episode, I really go all in on every single aspect of Black Panther that I'm super interested in and I just am in love with. All the way from like the mise-en-scène and the costumes and the set design to gender relationships, Black power, the issues in the Black community and more. So if you're interested in kind of nerding out over Black Panther, that episode 60, entitled Black Panther, is for you. If not, skip right over it and I will join you guys next week. But the Black Panther episode should be up either today or sometime before the week is out. So stay tuned for that. All right. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. Sorry for the low energy today, but I'm sure during spring break, you'll see a whole different Colby. In the meantime, wish me luck, and you stay badass, stay indie, keep writing, keep creating, and I will talk to you guys next time. And for those of you who are interested in Black Panther, I will see you guys in a couple days. Okay. Bye.